What positions did Mesopotamian women hold in society? The role of Mesopotamian women in their society, as in most cultures throughout time, was primarily that of wife, mother, and housekeeper. Girls did not attend the schools run by priests unless they were royalty. However, as the polytheistic religion included both gods and goddesses, Mesopotamian women were also priestesses, some of them not only important but powerful. Again, powerful how? What is their power when they hold no say in any aspect of Sumerian society? A family might sell a daughter to the temple, and they were honored to have a priestess in the family. Again, they're honored to sell their daughter into sex slavery. That's what this article wants you to know, how honored these Sumerian families were to sell their daughter into sex slavery. Families could also sell their daughters into prostitution or slavery. Prostitution, however, was not regarded. You know where that's going. It was an honor to be a prostitute. So what is the truth about sacred prostitution? The truth about sacred prostitution and the reason why it appears in so many cultures around the world, all these solar cults, is because sacred prostitution is part of the war machine. These are all warlike societies. Sumerian society was based on conquest, expansion, greed. And so the prostitution is a way of using female sexuality to further the ends of the priesthood, which is eternal war. Literally turning female sexuality against itself, using it for their ends, which is the oppression of women. The cults or religions which instituted this practice all hold a philosophy which is deeply inimical or hostile to women and nature. And so, as I've tried to show in previous videos, they hold this philosophy which, casts women as being part of nature. And since nature is their enemy and something to be controlled, that's how they view women as well, as a necessary evil. Women are the necessary evil, right? God is good and Eve is evil, right? It's just that simple. This philosophy is built into our language, our numeral system, our religions, our societies in ways that people just don't understand. So that's what sacred prostitution is from a philosophical sense. From a practical sense, sacred prostitution is an important part of the war machine, right? In a way, everything that everybody does is based around sex, or it's supposed to be in nature. Again, that's part of the reason why these priests see themselves as above nature, because they do not care about the circle of life. That's not what they're here for. They want to create a line, an infinite line that increases in power. So lines do not exist in nature. From a practical sense, sacred prostitution is just a way to turn your greatest enemy into an ally, into an asset, into a weapon against itself, against herself, and use it to fuel the war machine. So these armies are not really fighting each other. They're fighting to control the land, to control the people. And so it's a business plan to excavate the earth. It all goes back to mining, believe it or not. All this horror goes back to these metals that they want to dig out of the ground. So much of it depends on that. And so in a sense, all this horror, all this incredible misery and suffering and torture on this planet is being committed by a bunch of people who couldn't care less. Just like we can't care less when we destroy a new habitat to build a subdivision. Just like we can't care less when we buy products that we know are toxic and polluting the land, polluting the water. So it's a top-down situation in our society, and we are reflections of the sick people who employ us in a way. And so we're all part of the war machine. But these prostitutes were taken against their will, in my opinion. To be sold as a child is taken against your will. To be raped as a child and then to become someone who is promiscuous, who has sexual issues, and to make that person become a prostitute, that's free will, but it's not really free will, is it? Because they didn't choose to be molested as a child. So it's a way of exploiting hurt people instead of helping them. And if you can make it look to the masses like they're being held up as sacred or something, then all the better. You can laugh as you rape their children and tell them that you're doing it for holy reasons. So this sacred prostitution is incredibly sick. I mean, you can just read the wiki article. Read what they did to those little boys. Rape them on stage in a religious ceremony. Disgusting stuff. And it's happened all over the world. These cults are all of a similar nature. You can see that there's far too many similarities for it to be a coincidence, that there's one on this side of the world and one on this side of the world, and they're all doing the exact same things with the exact same structure, with the exact same philosophy and the exact same gods in many cases. Basically, they're all the same God with different faces. So that's what sacred prostitution is. It's a sick practice by sick people with sick intentions. And it's part of the sickness, the great plague that has run through our society. All these people who were conceived by mothers who owned by slave masters and fathers who couldn't care less about them. So in a lot of ways, sacred prostitution is also about creating this cycle of abuse, right? You create cultures of abuse that are really cycles of abuse. Culture, it's a cult. Right? So you create this cult in which abusive practices are passed down through generation and generation, and it just seems normal. Just like it seems normal for abused people to prostitute themselves at times because they've already had their bodies treated like it was somebody's property since they were children. So the things that you grow up around seem normal. So sacred prostitution is a way to destroy the natural family, to destroy everything, to break apart what the natural way of life is and to put it under control of people who want to dig minerals out of the ground. And they're going to use war and prostitution and anything else in order to achieve those ends. And of course, along the way, they've made us all complicit. Because we participate, our taxes go to fund the wars, and then we sit here and watch movies with people who are basically prostitutes, and we hail them as being gods and goddesses of worship.